and welcome to CS 112, Lesson 14.2, Displaying Images. This is made for the University of Idaho CS 112 dual credit program. So today we're going to be talking about displaying images and kind of how processing works. I've mentioned it before, and that processing is actually developed a little bit more on the artistic front whenever you kind of talk about what programs are used for. If you go and check out some of the models libraries and stuff like that in processing, you'll actually find out there's quite a few like art-based kind of things made in processing, which is kind of cool. Processing is definitely made more for that more artist level programmer versus kind of some of your just like kind of hardcore programming, if you will. So today we're going to be talking about displaying images and how we can do that in processing. It's kind of fun. We're going to be going a little bit online just really quick. I actually went ahead and got some pictures on my own already. We'll be able to see those kind of as I go through. You'll be able to kind of see how I actually do this. So let's get started. So we're going to use several images and we're going to modify them using in processing to create our own custom look. To do this, we're going to work step by step through this process in this lesson. So the first one, this is kind of the hard part for some kids and some people that aren't overly tech savvy, and so definitely take your time on this. Follow step by step if you don't know how to do parts of this. Every browser is slightly different, and so be sure that you kind of can figure it out. A good place to check out is maybe your downloads folder. I'm not going to open mine up because I have student work and stuff like that in there. So if you use Chrome, like I'm going to be using, it actually is pretty easy to be able to do this type of stuff. So what we're going to do is we are going to go and find two pictures, and we're going to name those pictures something specific. And actually, as you can see on the program, we're going to name them beach-pup.jpg, that's JPEG, and then flowers.jpg. So I'm going to have and you're going to see all of my stuff up on here, and I just went past it. I'm going to have my sketch, and I'm going to have my other stuff, my um, Internet Explorer, my internet browser. So the first thing that we need to be able to do is we need to actually make it so that processing knows where to look for the picture. There is a really kind of more complex way of making processing ask you where to go for it and making it actually part of the program, but that's a little bit beyond the scope of what this course is going to be going through. So the first thing that I did is I went and looked up some pictures of puppies. So go ahead and go check out some puppy pictures. My personal favorite is a Greater Swiss Mountain Dog, so that's my puppy is going to be named. So whenever you get to the object that you want, if you click on it, you can right-click if you have a Windows-based machine. If you have a Mac or Linux, you do the kind of the thing that you do that's similar to a right-click. Save your image as. A lot of people try and do this copy image. Don't copy the image. That's not going to work. Save your image as. So click that Save Image As, and it's going to ask you what to name it. Make sure that it's in a JPG format, and save it as Beach Pup and Flowers. Once you've done that, what we're going to do is we can actually just take this and drag it into the sketch. And you'll see that it says right down here, one file added to the sketch. And I'm going to do the same thing with my Beach Pup. And so that's what both of them are going to be named. They're going to be called Flowers and Beach Pup. Okay? All right, let's get back into it. So we loaded both of those in. So those are now saved into that processing folder. And it's actually saved under what's called the data folder inside of that processing. And it makes it so that it's something that it can reference to easily, and it doesn't have to go searching your entire computer looking for that specific thing. And so it has it with it the entire time. So if we go and check this, and let me just open up processing on that. So if we go and check this, if I go to Sketch, and I can click on Show Sketch Folder, I don't know if you saw that. Let me do it again. So if I go sketch, show sketch folder, try saying that 5 times fast, we can look here where it says data. I can go into there and we're going to see, and you can't see that, it's going to pop up with this. It's going to pop up with this kind of folder. It's going to have a name, sketch, and it says data. And so I go into data, and I'm going to see there's my beach pup and there's my flowers. All right, let's go back to processing. You could, if you were trying to do like a match, like a mass amount, you could definitely just take them all and like drag them all and put them in that. But for me, we're just using these two, so that's really not necessary. So, a couple things that we need to know about. Image. So to define an image, we actually go in and we actually name it that. And so what we do is we say, and make sure you put your name and stuff, like I almost forgot to. See, this is CS112. This is lesson 14-2, and I'm Dalton Hawkins. Okay, so P image, not a capital M, and pup. So what this does is this creates an image data type called pup. Now, that's all well and good, but it doesn't know what we mean. Remember, computers don't know what we mean all the time. We have to actually expressly tell it what it is. And so we're going to say, just so you know, pup. In order to get this pup, you need to load the image and, in quotes, beach pup. Now, if you did not .jpg, if you did not save yours as beach pup, this isn't going to work. So you need to call it whatever it's saved in your sketch folder for it to work. You do have to include the extension, that way it knows kind of how to decode it. And let's go ahead and see what happens if I push the play button. So if I push the play button, a whole bunch of nothing happens. Alright, still not quite fun yet, what has actually happened is it's actually loaded that image. So that image can be called by using just the term pup. So let's go ahead and do that. So what we're going to do, and the way that we do this is I say image, then I use the image variable, and you can actually see right down here, hopefully maybe on your screen, it tells you the parameters it expects. It expects p image, it expects float, and a float. So what it expects at the minimum is for us to tell it what we're getting. And so for in case, I'm going to say pup. And this is going to be at the location, we're going to have 0, 0, because that's the origin. And let's have it 250 wide and 180 tall. Alright, if I push my play button again. Alright, I got a little tiny bit of my doggy on there. Now, it's not quite everything that I want of my puppy. So, what I can do is I can actually, let me switch, oops, there's a little bit of my puppy, there we go. What I can do is I can actually set the mode of this. The default mode is center. And as you can maybe kind of guess if you can't remember that, the chapter 12 stuff, is we can actually go image mode. Default is corner, and so let's try center and see what that does. Push the play button. And this is a little bit more in the center of my puppy's picture. And so in all reality, I'm probably going to go in and I'm going to change my size of my screen. So let's go size. Let's make it, I think I want to say that it's 400. I could be wrong. 400, 400. Just kind of depends on the size of your picture that you have. Now, it looks like it's a little more in the corner, right? However, if I show this full screen, it's actually made so that the center of the picture is in that origin location. Um, so let's go back to corner and see what that looks like. And I just changed this, so I made it so that this is now corner. And I'm going to see what that does. Oh, isn't he cute? So we're able to see, okay, here's a little puppy dog, and he's kind of hanging out here. And we can actually do things. We can actually transform, like we did in a prior in a prior lesson. We can actually transform these pictures. We can make them rotate. We can translate them. We can do kind of all these things. And so it's pretty interesting what you can do with processing. So let's keep going. So a couple other things that we can do with this, besides just changing the image mode, is we can do kind of other cool things. So let's do this one. It's called tint. And what the tint does is you can change the color and the transparency of the image. So tint goes RGB and then also transparency if you want to. As we do with like fill and stuff like that, we can just put one number in and it'll change just kind of like the grayscale of it. So let's play with it. If we did this, 255, 128, the transparency is the second part. 255 is no color change. And 128 is the transparency, which is actually on a 255 scale. So this is approximately 50%. So now if I push the play button and I go look at the puppy, you can actually see that he's faded a bit, or she, I don't know. This dog is faded a little bit, and so we can actually kind of go in and we can play with it. And so another thing that we can do is we can also use another thing. So let's say, kind of as we do with fill, we can actually go in and say, hey, you know what? I don't actually want there to be any change on this one, so I can use a command called no tint. And if I push the play button again, and I go check out my puppy, it's back to how it started. Okay. So feel free, give this a shot. Maybe I'll do one. I'm gonna make it. Let's make it 128, 30, or I guess let's do 30, and let's do 200 and see what that does. So if I push the play button, oh, because I have no tint on. I was about to show you, and I was like, it didn't change with that no tint on. So if we go and look at the puppy, he's all purpley. So if I go back to tint and I set, let's say, everything to 255 except for my blue, which this is what I just did. I just changed these. And I push the play button. Doesn't look too much like a difference, but you can kind of start seeing that it's changing colors a little bit. So definitely feel free, go around, kind of play with that a little bit. All right, let's keep going. As I said, you can kind of change those colors to be different, like green colors or red colors, or kind of having more or less transparent. Here's the next thing, and I've been kind of asked this a couple of times of like, all right, what if I don't want draw to keep drawing? What if I just want it to happen once? Because that can happen with processing where we want it to run once and then we're done. Or maybe once it meets a certain criteria, then we want it to stop doing a draw function. So a way to stop the draw function is a command, and that command is no loop. And it does exactly what it sounds like. It stops the loop. It says draw, we're done. Um, so that's some people kind of like that. Some people like they put it in the wrong spot and it just crashes their program. So pretty strong, but good thing to kind of know about. So we're going to be creating a picture by combining these two images from JPEG. Uh, we're going to start with these two separate images, and we're going to layer to create a new image. We're going to kind of make them look pretty cool. So I'm going to go grab, in my program, I'm going to go grab my flowers. So adding some stuff, and actually I like my variables to define before the size, so I was a little ambitious there. So let's do p image, and let's call that flower frame. And I could actually put this with pup. I could make them as two separate variables. That's totally plausible. I'm going to leave the size the same. I need to load something for flower frame. So flower frame is going to be, oops, there we go. We're going to load the image of flowers.jpg. Now remember, you need to have your extension on there. You need to have this in quotes, and it needs to be what it's named in that data folder. Let's also make it, I'm going to get rid of this tent stuff, so hopefully you're not overly upset about that. Let's draw the flowers. So let's do image flowers. Oh, flower frame. And let's put it right below the puppy. So the puppy is 250 wide by 180 tall. So we're going to go at 0, and then I'm going to go 180 down, and then I'm going to give it a height of, let's just do the same numbers. Let's do 250, comma, 180, semicolon. And if I push the little play button, I get a picture of my puppy and a picture of my flower. If that was a little fast, feel free to pause. Okay. So let's change it up a little bit. Let's put the puppy on top of the flowers. So I'm going to set this to 0. Now, right now they're the same size, so I'm going to change this a little bit. Let's make this 150, and let's make this 100. So if I push the play button, we can now see that the puppy is on top of the flowers, except he's completely blocking out the flowers. We want the flowers to come through a little bit. Okay, so let's go fix that. If I center the image, let's see if that does anything. So that's image mode center. Yeah, it's not really what I was looking for. Let's see here. Let's make it instead that they're in the center of the screen. So what I could do, and I could write width divided by 2, height divided by 2 on all these, but that sounds like a lot of work. And if I wanted to change something, it seems like something I'd have to like go and like fix. So let's make something. Let's make a float, and let's call it center x. We're going to set that equal to the width divided by 2. And let's call this other one center y. Why? Because that's the easiest thing that I can come up with. And this is going to be the height divided by 2. Now we could have something that potentially scales and would be really good. We're not using it yet. That's why it's underlined in yellow. Just kind of saying, hey, you have these extra variables here that you don't actually need. So my flower frame, we're going to do center x and center y. And here I'm going to go.
Sorry, I'm having trouble understanding right now.
Sorry,
Please
my
try a little later.
Alexa device just went off. Center x and center y. And now if I push the play button, hey, they're in the center. Yay. All right, so now we're centered. Um, Now let's make it so that they're the same size. Why? Because we're trying to kind of like overlay them so that then they can kind of bleed into each other and we're going to be able to see them pretty well. So let's change this back to 250 and let's change this to 180. So if I push the play button. All right, now the background is completely gone, but that's totally fine. Let's make them a little bit transparent. So to make them transparent, and who do we actually want to make specifically transparent? Uh, Really, we need to add some transparency to both of them. So what we're going to do is let's do some tint. And if we do 255, 255, 255, and then we're going to have it very slightly tinted. Let's see what that does. Oh, well, maybe a little too transparent. Like you can't really see much on that, hopefully. So let's try changing some of these a little bit. Let's make this instead, let's make this 128 and see what that does. Hey, there's the puppy and there's the flower behind him. Now, to kind of address this, what we should do is we can kind of make our own kind of like looks to this. We can actually change locations in the where the tent is located. So if I look at these tents, we can change where the tent is located in order to kind of be able to make one maybe I use the word pop or look a little stronger than the other one. You can also use PNG files, um, and there's kind of like other systems you can use. You can also do more than one, two images on top of each other and kind of make them bleed into each other a little bit. Um, but onto the part that you're probably curious about, your assignment is to create a composition with at least two images, something else than what we just did. So they definitely shouldn't be named pup and flower frame, and they should have different names. They should be different things. Um, so use tint to create a change in color and transparency. Use one or more of the following. And I would actually say for sure you have to use tint, but also use either translate or rotate and kind of see if you can mess around with it a little bit. So once you accomplish that, make sure you comment on all sections of your code as always. And again, the idea being if you come back in a week or 2 weeks, will you know what's going on? Will you be able to come back and use this as a reference frame for studying for, let's say, a test or whenever you're kind of creating your first program out of your own? Once you accomplish that, submit the assignment as a zip folder. If you haven't um, learned how to zip a folder yet, one is actually extremely important. The reason why is pup and flower, even though you add them into your program, aren't actually inherently with your program. So you need to make sure that you send pup and, or sorry, that you send the beach pup and the flowers with the program itself, and it needs to be in that data folder. So make sure you're zipping the entire folder and sending that in. Otherwise, it pops up with an error. It's like there's no such thing as beach pup, or there's no such thing as flowers. We can't do this. So make sure if you don't know how to zip that folder, go check out that how to zip that folder lesson. Um, as always, happy coding.